Good morning, ma'am.
Morning, sir.
So, writing a paper is an art, and you learn it over the years. And none of the paper is written in first go. It's a series of writing and rewriting, rejection and the rewriting,
And
and so on.
rejection.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes.
ma'am, we just wanted for the young scholars, if you can just highlight some of the areas where they can focus, how to write introduction, how to go for with the review of literature, and all these things. You have written a wonderful
Right, sir.
paper. So, if you can share that paper and tell these things.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the invitation, also, sir. And I also, I mean, this is what I want because the workshops which we conduct. So, our focus is that the student should learn something out of it. No doubt, the students they want to emphasize more on on gaining skills regarding new techniques, research techniques. But the paper which I would share with you, you would be surprised to know that this research technique is something. When you write a quality paper or you intend to write a quality paper, research technique or your knowledge research regarding research technique, it is simply to analyze the results, nothing more than that. But our scholars they focus more on learning new techniques, which is good, but it is actually not required for writing a paper, because that is something, even if you are doing with something like ms or with the pls also, you can do. Only thing is you need to analyze the results. So analysis, for analysis purposes, and the paper which I'm going to share with you, so you would see yourself, you would also experience that it is not the technique which is important. So sir, I'll share the paper with you. So this is the paper which was accepted this year only. Yes, sir. So this is a paper which has been published recently in the Journal of Retailing and Consumer Services. Now, this journal has become quite popular over the period of over the last few years. It has become very popular now. So, and this is the paper which is assessing co-creation based competitive advantage to consumers' need for differentiation. So before I start with the introduction, and because I think in my previous sessions also I have already discussed that abstract should be written at the end. So we would be discussing abstract at the end only. So we would start with the introduction. But so these are the authors: my scholar Rita Devi, Mahesi Gupta from University of Louisville, TCE Chang from the Hong Kong University, Hong Kong Polytechnical University. So this paper actually. Why I'm saying that it is difficult or why this paper got rejection, it was because if you start thinking something which is out of box, which is something very much novel, or which is something so it's not that easy to sell your ideas, sir. It's very difficult. Even if you are talking something which is not known to the public, so they are not ready to accept it also. So this is also the case, that when you are sending out such type of papers, the reviewer or the editor, they are not ready to accept, because nobody knows me. I am no one, right, sir? So how would they accept it? But if the same things they are quoted by a renowned researcher, marketing researcher, so they are very happy to accept his ideas and his views also. And that's why their conceptual papers, they are being accepted. Otherwise, if you would ask us our conceptual papers, it's very difficult to find a place for the conceptual papers which we write. So this paper is all about co-creation of value. So there are three constructs which we have used in this paper. One is the co-creation of value. Second is the consumer's need for differentiation, and third is the word of mouth. So what is co-creation of value? Co-creation of value is basically creating value when two parties they interact and they bring their resources, they integrate their resources, and through that integration of the resources, through their expertise also. So it is because when they put together their skills, their knowledge, their time, their money also, so value is being created. So this value creation means co-creation means two parties are involved in creating the value, where the consumer creates the value for himself and the firm captures the value. So this is value creation for the consumers and value capturing for the firms. So co-creation of value, actually this concept was introduced way back in 2004, when the service dominant logic was actually introduced to the marketing academicians in 2004 by Virgo and Lush. So co-creation of value is one of the components of service dominant project. So they say that co-creation, whenever a firm invites the customers to create value for themselves, so that phenomenon or that process has to be beneficial for both the parties. right? So like we have already studied in the relationship marketing. Relationship marketing means the one that the consumer enters into a relationship with the firm. Why? Because the consumer is also expecting something in return, right? So why a consumer is interested in entering into a relationship? Because he is expecting something in return. So reciprocal relationship is there. Creation of value is basically creating the value. Consumer is creating value for himself by investing his resources. Need could be in terms of time, money, and efforts. So that is co-creation of value. The second is the consumer's need for differentiation. Nowadays what we have observed is that, need for differentiation, consumers, they do not want to go for a product which is mass customized. We're not talking about the standardized product. So we nowadays, consumers, they do not want to go for the product or the any service which is mass customized, which is preferred by everybody. What they are looking for is, they are looking for a product which is different, which is distinct, which is unique. So they are looking for that. And what we have seen, and after going through the literature, we have observed that, by the consumer, and who are the consumers who are looking for such differentiation? Those consumers who are more concerned about their social status, those who are actually, I mean they are more concerned about their standing in the society, how the people they perceive them, and people belonging to the elite class. So they are like, if you have a car like, BMW, Mercedes, or Audi, or if you own this mobile phone that is the, the latest version of the Apple also, so that is a status symbol for the people, right? May not be for a middle class family, but for the, yes, for the upper class family. So for them, that is a status symbol. So in that context, we have looked into the consumer's need for differentiation. So consumers, yes, consumers, they look for a different product, and then they do not want that, that product should be owned or should be, should be bought by somebody else. So they do not want that imitation has to be done. But when we talk about the iPhone, or when we talk about these automobiles also, so anybody can buy, if you have that ability to pay. So if you are willing to pay and you have the ability to pay, so you can go for any automobile or for the latest version of the Apple also. But there are still, so there are certain products where the consumers, they want to maintain differentiation, and they do not want to disclose the name of the service provider also. So this is here, this is what we are focused upon. The third construct which we have used is the word of mouth. So the objective of the storyline of this paper is that co-creation of value, and this concept was started in 2004. And the aim of, this the aim of Berkman and Lush to introduce co-creation of value was, it was that, the two parties, they will create the value for each other. They would create value for each other, where the consumers, they would bring their knowledge and their expertise, their competence, skills also along with them, and they are ready to invest their time also, and they are ready to, shed more money also for that. Because when we talk about co-creation of value, so the service provider, that this is what a service provider expects, that beside investing your time and efforts, you are also ready to pay more money for that, because you are asking for a differentiated product. So now in this case, what we are proposing here is that, co-creation of value, no doubt, if a consumer invests more money, so he would get a differentiated product. But now the thing, I mean, where this story has taken a different shape is that, if a consumer is expecting a different product, is he ready to speak positive words about that service provider or not? So that is the story here. So I and my scholar, we being women, so we were well versed with this sector which we have chosen for this study. So it was the boutiques, where the ladies apparels, they are being designed, and it's very common in almost all the cities in the North India. So ladies, they are more conscious of their, apparels, and more particularly they are concerned about the designs. Because if you buy something which is ready made, so that can be easily bought by some other people also. But if we are designing on our own, where we are actually investing time to tell that, this is the design which we want. So in that case, we also want that the service provider should not disclose that design, or should not use that design in some other apparels. So this is the story here. So keeping in mind But the thing is, because this was something we had in our mind, that if a consumer is asking for a different or unique product, he would not bring more business to the service provider. So which means that, the basic idea, the basic crux of co-creation of value, somewhere it gets defeated, because it has to be mutual benefit. I mean, mutually it has to be, benefit. Both the parties should get benefits, they should derive the benefits from the, because I told you that it is, if it is value creation for the consumer, it is value capturing also for the firm, for the service provider. They should also get more profits out of it, which may not be happening now. So now, why this paper got accepted, right? I mean, now after, I think we struggled for more than 3 years. Why? Because, now you would find that the marketing literature in various marketing journals, you would find now people talk more about the dark side of co-creation of value. So this is in context to the dark side of co-creation of value. So the way the concept was conceived at the time, when it was introduced, so in that way, it is not being implemented. The operationalization is not that way. It has taken a different shape, sir. So this is the, so in the introduction, now if I have to talk about the what has to be there in the introduction of your paper, so in that case, scholars, they have to keep in mind two things what they need to introduce. First is the research problem. What is the research problem? Secondly, they need to relate that research problem with the research gap, and then from there the objective of the study or the research question would emerge. So now when we talk about the research problem, so what is the problem with regard to co-creation of value? So this co-creation of value, it was basically in 2000, though your Virgo and Lush paper was the most prominent paper, which was, introduced in 2004. But Prahlad and Ramaswamy, they introduced this concept of co-creation. And they say that, the consumers and firms, they jointly create the relationship for mutually valued outcomes. So the basic outcome of value co-creation is that both the parties, they get benefits. Both the parties, they get benefits. And then, it is not that only the firms. Otherwise, earlier, when you talk about the mass customization, mass production, so there the firms, they are getting more benefits. But now in this case, when you talk about the co-creation of value, so the outcome has to be such that, both the parties, they should feel at the end, they should feel contented with that process. So that, though both of them, both the parties, they have integrated, they have, they have invested their resources. But now it is that, though the parties, they are investing their resources, the firms, they are allowing the customers to co-create value for themselves. But is it, so the research question is it beneficial for the firms to allow the customers to co-create value for themselves? So research on the co-creation strategy has found that firms that do not meaningfully engage their customers outperform those that meaningfully engage their customers outperform those that do not. So now companies, they cannot ignore this concept also, this philosophy. They have to they have to entertain their customers, and they have to allow the customers also to co-create value for themselves. So it has more or less, it has become a practice nowadays. So companies cannot, easily, they cannot ignore this aspect of co-creation of value. But the only thing which they need to understand is whether customer engagement, customer participation, would it be beneficial for the firms or not. So nowadays, even in the literature, you would find the term that is the complete co-creation. So it is the transparent process of value creation, which is an ongoing productive collaboration with and supported by all the relevant parties. So at least there has to be two parties to create the value for themselves. So it is the complete, when you talk about the complete co-creation, so in the complete co-creation, so we have different parties which are involved. But in our case, we are talking only from the consumer's perspective. Otherwise, I would show you that there are many actors which are involved in this process, but we have contacted only the consumers to know that, how much value they have. They could, I mean, are they happy with the co-creation or not? They are happy. But then, what else you need to talk about is like, so, because in this case, we could not find any secondary statistics or any data which can support. But had it been something like on SMEs or something on MSMEs, or maybe, on any other sector, maybe banking sector, like we talk about the employee engagement or their disengagement. So we have certain reports, and those, like, maybe, to give you an example here, the Gallup report. So Gallup report keeps on, talking about how much is the employee engagement rate nowadays, or employees turnover rate also. Those things we need to introduce in them. But in this case, what we got ultimately is the research gap. Because even though there is a growing interest in the co-creation of value strategy, but little knowledge exists on its effect on the need for differentiated products and the plausible economic outcomes. So literature says that, still both the parties, they are not clear about the outcome of co-creation of value, what result they would finally derive. One thing is for sure, that value creation means that, consumers, they are able to create value for themselves. That is for sure. But literature in that case also says that employees of the organization, they are not happy with the customer participation in the co-creation process. Employees are not happy. So with that, what has happened is the employees engagement level has also come down. But so, I mean, keeping in mind the different things, so literature talks from the employee's perspective, from the company's perspective, that employees are hesitant because, somehow company has given more powers to the customers. So employees feel that, they do not have sufficient powers, or they, maybe in certain cases, they feel that the customers, they overpower them. So they ignore the role which the employees, they used to play earlier. So customers, they are dominating them in the co-creation process. So I mean, because of that literature which we have studied, so we could see that, it is the still, companies, they are not able to judge in true sense what is the outcome of co-creation of value for the company, though they are allowing the customers to co-create the value. But ultimately, are the employees happy? And if the company is making the investment of various resources, is it beneficial? Is it, I mean, what type of return company gets on those investments? So that is not clear to the company. So keeping in mind that thing, so our study addresses the concern raised by Shah et al. So this was a paper in 2021. In fact, so this paper has actually supported our intentions, our minds, that, with respect, they talked about the dark side of value co-creation. So they say that, it is not that I mean, always co-creation of value is beneficial for both the parties. And you cannot talk about, to date, I could say that, companies, they have failed to understand how to create a balance in the sense that, to keep the employees happy, at the same time allowing the customers to co-create value for themselves. So for companies also, it is not that easy to invite the customers to co-create value. So Shah has talked about the dark side of the value co-creation. Dark side means they are talking about the negative effects, the adversarial effects of co-creation of value. And moreover, Yin et al. Also, they link co-creation with the value co-destruction. So it is not that, always the value is co-created. Value somehow, in the process, during the process also, your value gets destroyed also, sir. It gets destructed also, and found that negative word of mouth is a value co-destruction behavior. So from there we got an idea, that value co-destruction is also there, which means not that customer who is getting a customized product, who is getting a differentiated, a very unique product, not necessary that he would spread positive words about the service providers. That is the dark side of the co-creation of value. So keeping in mind that thing, so this is how we have actually introduce that this is the research gap in the sense that support from the literature as well. But because they have talked more from the employee's perspective, more from the company's perspective. So we want to confirm whether it is true that the customers, they are, though they are investing their resources, but at the same time, they are not ready to become a brand ambassador for that particular firm. Why is it so? that they are not ready to recommend the name of the service provider, and the service provider is willing for the investment, and is willing that the customer should participate. So customer involvement in the process, customer participation, firm is ready for that. But is the customer paying it off to the firm or not? So what return does a company get from this co-creation of value? Is it beneficial for the company? Is it a source of revenue, more revenue generation for the firm? Or maybe somewhere company is losing, so company has to look into it, that whether the company is actually gaining something out of this co-creation process, or is it suffering from from the profits. So, however, the role that need for differentiation. So now, because co-creation of value, one thing is known, and it is well established in the literature, that co-creation of value would lead to differentiated product, which means a customized product. So now, because we talk more about the mass customization, so we are talking about, so we have not used the term customization here, or customized product. We're talking about a differentiated product. Even in the mass customization also, so we are talking about a product which is totally different, which is totally distinct. So they say that so what we try to do here is the role that need for differentiated product. So this is a need, or this is a desire of a customer to own, to possess a unique product. So what is the role that this differentiated product plays in establishing a link between co-creation of value and the firm performance? So it is, I mean, the literature is quite silent on it in the B2C context, business to consumer context. Consumers' need for differentiation, though it is very significant, it's very important for ensuring consumers perceive value, benefits, and target market concentration, finally fostering a, because when you say it is very important, so it is not applicable for each category of products, not applicable there, because in certain cases you would find that it is not possible to go for a differentiation, or to, I mean, you cannot establish differentiation in that case. So there are certain, like, so in case of construction of a house, so it all depends, what type of house you want. So it all depends, your liking, your disliking. It also depends upon the amount which you are willing to invest in it. So there are various factors, but in the construction of house also, one can always think of people, they are going for the co-creation. They create value for themselves, because they are getting the from the internet and from other sources, they are getting considerable information. And so they gain the knowledge regarding the construction of a house using by exploring different sources. So this is one of the examples which the scholars, they can explore in the future. So the key objective of also, very clearly you need to write down that what is the objective of your study. So what we have, I mean, the problem, we could not actually explicitly, we could not state the problem here. Though we were aware of the problem, but we could not state it here. Why? Because there was no source, no citation for it. But then what we try to do it, we try to bring in the research gap. And then once you clearly, you clearly write down that this is the research gap, or this is what the literature talks about, and you are going to make an extension of the existing literature. So you are going to extend the existing literature. So and then you have to clearly specify the basic objective of your study also. So the key objective of our study is to analyze the role of consumers' need for differentiation in the business customer relationship, especially the link between co-creation of value and customer need for differentiation, and its effect on the performance outcome. The important link is not between the co-creation of value and customer need for differentiation. The important link is between customers' need for differentiation and word of mouth. So, I mean, this link is not clear. That if a customer is getting, or if a customer is desirous of different product, of a unique product, would he recommend the service provider to his close associates, to his friends, colleagues, relatives, or not? So that was not clear. I mean, we could not get anything regarding that from the literature. So research has suggested that when a consumer has expended considerable efforts, so then when we dig deeper, so we found that research says especially this Rao and Park paper in 2020. So they say that, when a customer has expanded, when he has already invested his considerable efforts on co-creating value with the firm, their satisfaction, positive experience with the product will generate word of mouth, which is a non-paid advertising having long term. So this is what we know. We all know that if we are satisfied with the product, may it be a customized product or may it be a standardized product, if we are happy with that, if we are satisfied by, with that purchase, if we are happy with that purchase decision, and also by using that product, if we are happy, so we would always spread positive words. This is what the literature says. So our argument was different to this. It was in contrary to what is well established in the literature. So we are saying even if a customer is satisfied with the customized product, with a different product which he gets, even if he is satisfied, he would not speak positive words. So Ranjan and Reed also in 2021, they found that despite many studies on co-creation of value, limited attention, so their research gap, that limited attention has been paid to addressing the way co-created value flows back to the customers. That usually, so how it comes back to the customers, because they have also invested time and efforts during the co-creation process. They express concern about the dark side of the co-creation, which refers to customer exploitation or even double exploitation in terms of net. So this is how nowadays also, when they talk about the dark side of the co-creation, so they are focusing more on the customer being exploited. Double exploitation. So customer being exploited means customers, they are bringing their ideas. They want innovations in the product or the process or the design. Customers, they are spending their time also, valuable time also. Customers are paying more money to buy such type of products. So they call it as customer exploitation or double exploitation, because the resources which the customer is is investing, so those resources, they are greater in terms of terms of time, money and effort, in relation to what the resources the company or the service provider they are investing. So that's why they say that it is the customer exploitation. So but in our case, we are not talking about the customer exploitation, we are talking about customers. Are the customers loyal to the service provider? We are saying, are the customer, should the service provider trust the customer? Because ultimately, the service provider is allowing the customer to co-create the value. But are the customers trustworthy? So in that quest only, so we have written this paper. So we talk about, so this is all, this is what is expected also, that in the introduction, though, this much small introduction is required, but the introduction should clearly spell out the problem, research problem which we are looking for, because now here the problem is the dark side of the co-creation of value, that is the research problem, right, which we have stated here. So research problem is there, so research gap is that not much work has been done on it, and more particularly from the customer's perspective. And but nobody has talked about the loss, or in what way the firm would suffer if a customer would not spread positive words. And even the firms, they are not aware of it, that whether the customers, they are spreading positive words or they are spreading negative words, or they are not saying anything about the service provider. Right, sir. So in this regard, we addressed the unanswered questions. So our research question was, it's always better that at the end, every researcher should clearly state the research question. How does consumers' need for differentiation affect their word of mouth for co-created products of micro businesses? So far, we have remained neutral. Neither we said that it was positive words which are being spread by the customer, nor we favored the negative words. Because interaction means that we do not know, or when I say that we remain neutral, means that we remain impartial towards the actual outcome. So far we say that we they so that's why this is a research question. We do not know that how the consumer's need for differentiation would ultimately affect the customer's word of mouth for co-created products. So micro businesses, these are the boutiques which we have considered for our study. So this is regarding the introduction, sir. So in the introduction, I mean, in the mm, last session, we talked about that what the editors or what the the reviewers they expect from the researchers, those who have submitted the paper. So now, I mean, it should be clear that what do they expect? They want that problem should be very much clear. You define the research problem, then you also support the research problem with your research, whatever literature you have reviewed and the research gap which you have identified, support it, and then at the end, then you clearly say that your objective should emerge from the research gap, that this has not been done. So this is what we are going to do. So I mean, even if I would come back to the abstract, sir. So we have written that the extent literature analyzing the impact of value co-creation consumers' need for differentiated product is sparse. So it is very little. So the present study examines the role of consumers' needs. So it's very difficult to use such type of terms, unless you are confident about the literature. Otherwise, nobody is going to buy your idea. Nobody would support. So, and then we have written in the abstract that we investigate the effects of innovation differentiation. So what we have done is consumers need for differentiated product, is it in the form of innovation differentiation or in the form of market differentiation? So this we are going to discuss in the next session, sir, which is literature review. So there we would discuss yes, sir, we would
Ma'am,
discuss
I have a couple of small questions here. Can I ask it now, ma'am?
yes, yes, sir, yes.
Okay. So, ma'am, is there any word length for the introduction?
Sir, normally it's a one page length, typed one page. It should
Right.
not go beyond that. Otherwise, it becomes very boring and stretchy also. So it is better that if your introduction is confined to the one page only.
Okay. And
Yes,
structure you
very
have said.
short, crisp, and comprehensive.
Right. And
Yes,
the
sir.
three component you told, there must be some sort of the research question, research gap, and your objective. And the last
Yes,
paragraph, I can see you defined what you discussed in the paper. So that's generally the last
Yes, sir.
paragraph.
Last paragraph. Yes, in the flow of the paper, the
In the
remaining
flow
sections
of
of
the
the
paper.
paper.
Right, ma'am.
Yes.
So, ma'am,
Yes, sir.
you
Yes.
have mentioned some of the references. So, is it has to be very new, recent? But I can see there is one to reference of 2006 and 2009 also. So,
Yes, sir.
what sort of?
Though the editors and the journal people, they expect that the citations should be very recent.
Okay,
It should
ma'am,
be very
some.
recent, 2002 or 2004. But and the research gap and the research gap which they have actually mentioned. So that research gap has not been addressed.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
So am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So in that case, yes, you can take, you can take the support of that literature also.
Okay,
What matters ultimately is, sir, that where the paper has appeared. If it
okay,
is like in this case, if it is Journal of Marketing, or you're talking about the Academy of Marketing Science, Journal of Retailing, you're talking about. So there, even if that paper has appeared long back, 20 years back, but if you being a researcher, you are confident that that research gap still persists, and you are the first one to bridge up that gap, then there is no problem, sir.
okay.
But normally they expect, that the latest papers should be cited.
Should we also focus on the highest cited paper in that?
Highest cited, sir, may not be possible, because like if you talk about the paper which has appeared in 2021,
Mhm.
in that case citation may not be that high. But
Yeah.
yes, the paper which is very like Virgo and Lush, I do
Mhm.
not know how much is the citation by now. Because that is the highly cited, must be highly cited paper, because in every paper on co-creation of value, you would find that Virgo and Lush, that paper would be there.
Right, ma'am. And lastly, ma'am, though it's basically starts from the idea of the paper, most of the journal they ask for the future direction. So can that future direction given starting point of your research problem? or research gap?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Research gap. From where would you get the research gap? You would get the research gap from the future research directions of the earlier studies.
Earlier published.
The future research agenda given in the earlier studies, that becomes the base of your research gap.
Okay.
So our research gap is based, it is premised on the future research directions given by the previous studies. Yes, sir. True.
Sure, ma'am. It's very much clear, ma'am. So we can stop here, and in the next we will talk about the literature review, ma'am.
Right. Right.
Thank you.